Hey there, Bruce, and welcome back to Remember 11, Age of Infinity. Let's just carry on from where we left off, shall we? We're just awoke next to Hattori, and that's about it, I guess. We were about to get our palm read, but of course that happened to Kokoro. Not us. Anyway, I returned to my room. I took the wristwatch out of my pocket and confirmed the time, 2:30 p.m. If I estimated that I'd stayed with Hattori for about 5 minutes, then this transfer occurred at about 2:25. The previous transfer was at 1:52, therefore I was at Mount Akakura for 33 minutes again. The transfer phenomenon has a pattern to it. Although, I still can't be sure. I'm not checking the time immediately after the transfer, so the numbers in and of themselves aren't that trustworthy. Well, I'll think it over more carefully later. Next, I'll check to see if there were any messages. I picked up the notepad. No reply from Kokoro, which is to say, except for the time that she made the drawing, I've never received a proper response from Kokoro. Does she not like writing? But she could just talk into the voice recorder at the shelter cabin instead, so it can't be for such a simple reason. Maybe too many things are happening and she doesn't have time to leave a message. I muttered, persuading myself. The blank notepad in my hand. I stared at it until I felt dizzy, but no words materialized. I tossed it onto the desk and lay down on the bed. I thought about the uni of Mount Akakura. In the end, I missed another chance to ask him. Precognition, huh? Could it be true? Even though the rational part of me wants to deny that to the bitter end, another part of me wonders if it's really okay for me to dismiss it so easily. I don't believe him, but I also somehow feel as though I could. I'm at a stalemate. I cursed my indecisiveness. In any case, I put the problem with uni on hold. The next time I transfer, I'll have to talk to him again. Leaving it for later, putting it on hold, delaying. I kind of feel like I'm procrastinating over an awful lot of things. I'm not making any progress, which is the equivalent of saying that I haven't obtained any new information. I screamed, furiously scratching at my head. I jumped off the bed in a rage. There are too many damn things to talk about. Stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. I kicked the desk with all my might. My toes hurt like hell. Well, duh. In the end, night came without me making any new progress at all. No transfers had occurred since then either. The matters of Uni and Hattori were still running through my head, and after that I began to worry about Lin and Kokoro. Furthermore, the mysterious transference phenomenon that was tormenting both me and Kokoro. Just what was this phenomenon? What did it all mean? How had the two of us become involved in it? Is it a prank? Fate decided to play on us, or maybe God's practical joke? Without one clue about my current situation, I had unintentionally begun to cling to these illogical, mystical thoughts. Doing that was kind of like taking the easy way out, but I felt like if I didn't, my brain cells would explode and gush out through my pores. Right now, my head was burning up from all the confusion. In an attempt to cool it down somehow, I was currently outside of the terrace, exposing my body to the numbing chill of midwinter wind. The moon was floating high in the eastern sky. I can't read today. It was a waning gibbous? What the fuck does that mean? Does that make today the 19th? Over half its visible surface was illuminated. The moon had only just risen. It somehow felt very relaxed, bathed in the pale moonlight. All my worldly thoughts were cleared away, and the inside of my head became perfectly clear. I felt like all my troubles were being sucked away. Standing on the terrace, I continued to absent-mindedly gaze up at the moon. The waning moon shone down its divine radiance, drifting in its infinite world. It looked like an orb being borne across the sky in waves, and just as I had thought, "What are you up to?" A voice came from behind me. Turning around, I saw Utsumi-san. You know you'll catch cold if you stay outside for too long, you know. What's wrong? Is something bothering you? No, I'm fine. Trying to distract her, I favoured her with a light smile. More importantly, Utsumi-san, why are you here? You see, I've identified the composition of that liquid. Liquid? You mean the stuff that was on the cheese? That's right. Is it jizz? So I thought I'd come and tell you. Utsumi rested her back against the railing of the terrace and crossed her arms over her chest. She combed her fingers through her silvery hair. Shining in the moonlight, her hair held a dreamlike radiance. I'll start with the results, but it wasn't poison. I knew it was jizz, she said, staring at me firmly. What? That can't be. Then what did the rat... Wait, let me explain, okay? What I meant was, it isn't harmful if taken as recommended. However, if you defy those rules, it becomes a deadly poison. It's that kind of chemical. Sleeping pills. More specifically, what kind of medicine is it? It's a MAO inhibitor. That's what it's called. MAO inhibitor? Yeah, that's right. It might get a little complicated from here on out, so I'll go in order, okay? First, as to the properties of the MAO inhibitor, MAO is short for monoamine oxidase, a monoamine oxidation enzyme. As the name suggests, the MAO inhibitor literally works to inhibit the oxidation of monoamines inside the body, and this monoamine oxidation itself serves the function of swiftly metabolizing harmful substances accumulating in the body. For example, something like the substance tyramine. The monoamine oxidation enzyme is responsible for the breakdown of the tyramine content found in food as well. By the way, this tyramine substance is known to cause stimulation of the sympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is one of the components of the autonomic nervous system, the regulation of blood pressure and blood sugar levels. Blood vessel constriction throughout the body and the accumulation of blood in the brain and muscles are all controlled by the sympathetic nervous system. Did you get all that? Because here comes the important part. The MAO inhibitor works to suppress the monoamine oxidation enzyme. The monoamine oxidation enzyme is responsible for breaking down tyramine. Tyramine causes stimulation to the sympathetic nerves. The sympathetic nerves control blood pressure, so if the MAO inhibitor is taken, I understand, that's enough explaining. So in short, it's like this, right? If the monoamine oxidation enzyme is prevented from breaking down tyramine, the sympathetic nerves get overstimulated and blood pressure rises. Just as I expected, Yukito-kun. You're a fast learner. Then do you know the symptoms that accompany extreme elevation in blood pressure? Heart attack? Let's see. Most likely the blood vessels in the brain will rupture, and then the worst case scenario, death, I think. Mitsumi nodded deeply before continuing. Other symptoms include pulmonary edema, circulatory collapse, heart attacks, and many other complications stemming from hypertension. But please hold on a minute, Itsumi-san. The monoamine oxidation enzyme is naturally present in the body, isn't it? And what about tyramine? Good job on noticing. I said so from the beginning, didn't I? That the MAO inhibitor isn't harmful if taken as recommended. And one of those recommendations is do not take with any food containing tyramine, right? Yes. That's why, conversely, if you're in a situation where there's no tyramine present in your body, no matter how much of the MAO inhibitor you drank, it would be completely harmless. Tyramine will completely disappear from the body after 48 hours at the latest, because of the monoamine oxidation enzyme. In other words, if you don't eat any food that contains tyramine for 48 hours, the MAO inhibitor won't have any negative effects. I see. And what kinds of foods contain tyramine? Let me guess, fucking cheese? Too many to count, really. Chocolate, bananas, figs, raisins, liver, herring, pollock roe, salmon roe, wine, beer, coffee. And then there are the dairy products such as yogurt, butter, and cheese as well. Cheese. Yes, cheese. I see, so that's why the rat was suffering like that. The person who added it most likely knew what would happen. If not, there's no way you'd ever combine the MAO inhibitor and cheese, which means their goal from the start was to kill the rat. Most likely. I began to ponder, tapping a finger against my temple. That means the only person it could be is either myself, because I know apparently some stuff about that, or her, who's a doctor or something and knows about all the medicine here. So it's Utsumi, obviously. Was Hattori the one who spread the MAO inhibitor on the cheese after all? I simply relieved it from its pain. What? She's not a fucking doctor. It was in agony on the kitchen floor. Isn't taking away pain and suffering like that the same as what a doctor does? Thinking about Hattori only made me feel depressed. Pregnant girl? Even though I've been sunning today, it had been sunny today, my body is frozen to the core from staying outside so long. It's snowing. Shivering, I entered the living area. The interior was enveloped in darkness. Itsumi had already left, and I too was heading to my room. The only one remaining was Hattori. Kagame, Kagame, the bird within the cage. When will you come out? In the evening lit by the dawn, the crane and the turtle slipped and fell. Who's that behind you? She was all by herself, humming that song, sitting right against the window, basking in the moonlight. How long since had she been sitting there? Did she hear the conversation between me and Utsumi? Well, let's approach her. We might die, though. I approached Hattori, unsteadily, as though lured toward her. But what should I talk to her about? I couldn't just ask her about the MAO inhibitor straight out. When I pressed her about it this afternoon, Hattori became extremely agitated. She was mentally ill. I thought it'd be dangerous to excessively stimulate her for no good reason. And besides, what good would come from asking her about the MAO inhibitor? It wouldn't help anything even if I did confirm that Hattori's the one who did it. We know that she knows a lot more about this sort of stuff than we thought. She shouldn't be clued in on that sort of thing, right? Plus, when we saw the scene of the hospital after she'd killed everybody, there's just blood everywhere. So obviously she didn't poison them. She went in there with a fucking machete or something and started chopping people up. So I think that's more her style, you know? She'd beaten that rat to death. Like that, yeah. What's more, she'd already admitted to that of her own free will. Wasn't that more than enough? I stood beside Hattori thinking that, and then... Hey, Satoru. Before I could open my mouth, Hattori began to talk instead. However, her eyes didn't turn to face me. She was absent-mindedly gazing into the darkness outside. Her body had the appearance of a ghost in the pale moonlight. Did you know the hidden meaning behind the Kagame song, Satoru? Why do you ask all of a sudden? No reason. I was just wondering if you knew. Wasn't that what the kid was talking about? What Yuni was talking about on the plane? Right at the start? Sure. The meaning of the Kagame song, huh? I know a little about it, but then what does it mean? First, Kagame is... a caged woman. A woman in a cage. It's most likely referring to a prostitute. So the Kagame song is actually a sad story of a prostitute who's being held captive and turned into a commodity, so... That's completely wrong. What? You got the reading right, but the meaning is totally off. The Kagame in the Kagame song is a woman with a great big belly. A woman who uses her body as a cage. Written as cage woman. In other words, a pregnant woman. The next verse, the bird within the cage, when will you come out? They're asking when the baby will be born. And then there's the in the evening lit by the dawn. Yoke no ban. Ban doesn't refer to the evening, after day, but the ban you write together with the character for woman, to bear a child. It's referring to the character Ben in Bunben. Childbirth. Then what about the next verse? The crane and the turtle slipped and fell. What does that mean? The crane and the turtle are the symbols of celebration, right? For them to slip, that would mean... You understand the rest even without me saying, don't you? I began to think. Kagame referred to a woman who's using her body as a cage. The bird probably refers to the baby, and the lyrics are asking when will the baby be born. The answer immediately follows. The birth will happen near dawn. However, the joyful celebration had slipped and floated away. Looks like you figured it out, huh? Hattori's eyes never strayed from the window. What was she so sleepily looking at? As time passed, the darkness outside deepened even further. But wait a second, Hattori. Even though I figured it out, it still doesn't mean that I understand everything. The meaning of that last verse. Who's that behind you mean? Who knows? The Grim Reaper. I don't know either. I wonder who it could be. The one who's behind you, I mean. Without another word, Hattori got up and headed for her room. However, just before she left the room, she stopped and turned to me. Oh, that's right. You remember our bet, don't you? I have a favour to ask, so listen carefully, okay? Before continuing, she handed a certain object over to me. Can you look into this for me? I found it in Yuni's room. I'm counting on you, okay? Leaving those words behind, she disappeared through the door. Found it in Yuni's room? I opened my palm. Pills. It's some kind of medication. The package had the word Rexinin printed on it. Even if you asked me to look into it. Complaining, I slipped the pills into my pocket. But even so, why did Hattori suddenly begin talking about the Kagame song? Because they're always talking about it here. Judging from her tone, it didn't feel like it was just idle chit-chat. The Kagame song, huh? Somehow, it felt like the truth about it was hidden from within that song. The living area had become devoid of light. I'd gotten completely wrapped up in my own thoughts there in the darkness. It didn't seem like a very productive way to pass the time. If I'd had the time to do stuff like this, I should get moving instead. Thinking that, I began to wonder where to go. Since the sun had set, I talked to both Utsumi and Hattori, which left Uni. My feet automatically began to take me there. Upon opening a door, I saw Uni standing in front of the fridge with a glass cup tilted towards his mouth. There was mineral water in it. It looked like he'd just taken a drink. What is it, Satoru? Uni asked, placing his empty glass on the desk. Even though he'd asked what is it, I didn't have a reply ready. There wasn't anything in particular I wanted to ask him. After all, the consciousness of the Uni right here and now belonged to the Uni of 2011. Of course, it'd be a different story if it was the Uni of the shelter cabin. I had a mountain of questions for him. However, no matter what I asked this Uni of the past, I didn't think his answers would have much significance. No, but it's not like I could say that for sure, is it? It wasn't like I'd found any concrete evidence that the Uni at SPHIA was really the Uni of 2011. Hey Uni. This is kind of abrupt, but I tried throwing out a question like this in order to confirm it. What year is it again? What are you saying, Satoru? Did you forget that too? Well, I don't mind if you think of it like that. So what year is it? What year do you think it is? Geez, you're hopeless. I'll tell you, so make sure you write it down somewhere, okay? It's currently The year 2011. I see, that's right. Thanks. Saying that, I left Uni's room. I'd guess right after all. It's the year 2012 here at SPHIA. But in spite of that, Uni had just told me it was the year 2011. Could there be any better evidence than this? Uni had transferred just once, jumping through time, but his testimony alone wasn't enough. Just to be sure, I felt it necessary to get the testimony of a third party as well. If you ask what kind of testimony I was after... Hey, it's Simi-san. Oh, what's wrong, Yukidoka? Well, the truth is, there's something I wanted to ask you. What is it? What year is it now? It's 2012. Itsumi answered without the slightest hesitation. My conviction had become even firmer. If my memory matched with a third party's testimony, it was good enough to support my thinking in regard to it being the year 2012 in SPHIA. However, I'm convinced that the Uni here right now is from 1 year in the past. It's a definite possibility. On January 11th, 2011, Uni, who was a passenger on flight HAL 18, had fallen onto Mount Akakura and by some twist of fate ended up at this facility. That said, he hadn't transferred over and over again like Kokoro and I. He'd only changed places once. The past Uni's consciousness had gotten stuck in the future Uni's body, and vice versa. Why did the transfer only happen once to Uni? I groped along the wall until I found the light switch and flipped it on. The living area was empty. My body sank deep into the sofa as I kicked my feet up onto the table. No matter how much I thought about Uni, there'd be no end to it. Now I had even more things to ask him the next time I was at the shelter cabin. He said he had the power of precognition, but that had to be a lie. That darn Uni. I don't know whether he'd heard my muttering or not, but... The door to his room opened and Uni suddenly popped out from behind it. Satoru! Satoru! He rushed over to me, calling out in a cheerful voice. He hopped up onto the sofa, and at that instant, my consciousness was suddenly yanked away. I was on a bed in the shelter cabin, with my body lying down under some blankets. No, rather than my body, I guess I had to say Kokoro's body. I immediately checked the time. The wristwatch on my right hand indicated 10:15 PM. I got up and walked to the center of the cabin. I looked all around it, turning in a circle. Yomogi was squatting in front of the stove, throwing wood onto the fire. Up on the top bunk, Lin was asleep with her back to us. The most vital survivor, Uni, was nowhere to be seen. Yes, he was the most vital. This time, I'll get the truth out of him no matter what. Could he be down in the storeroom? I tried asking Yomogi. Hey, old man. When I called out to him, Yomogi rebuked me as he turned around. I sure wish you'd stop calling me old man all the time, Yukido-kun. Huh? You're Yukido-kun, aren't you? It's easy to tell the two of you apart from the way you speak. Well, this certainly is a welcome development. Now I can finally skip the explanation every time. Which reminds me, looks like Fuyukawa-san recorded something. On the voice recorder. Kokoro did? Yeah. But since she was down in the storeroom, I don't know what it's about. She was whispering something, so I just figured... I see, thanks a lot. I decided to immediately go listen to the voice recorder. Standing in the corner of the room, I pressed the playback button. I waited for Kokoro's voice to flow out from the device and into my ears. This is Kokoro. I listened to your message. Why'd you say this is the year 2012? It's the year 2011. It's not like you to be mistaken. Maybe you should rest a bit. I asked everyone and they all said it was the year 2011 too. I repeat, this is the year 2011. There's no mistake in it. She paused for a moment, then continued. P.S. Quit taking off my wristwatch, okay? My wristwatch is called a wristwatch because you wear it on your wrist. The content itself didn't come as much of a surprise. The fact that Kokoro is convinced that it's the year 2011 is understandable, of course, because in the shelter cabin, saying it's the year 2011 is correct no matter how you look at it. She said, I asked everyone, but that everyone was probably just the other refugees in the shelter cabin. They said it was the year 2011 again, a reasonable statement. It seems like what I tried to say didn't come across very well. My last message had been cut short due to Yuni's unexpected intrusion too. I ended up not being able to tell her everything. The world you're in right now is 1 year later, the year 2012. That's pretty much what I wanted to say. It's only natural for her to misunderstand. I decided to reply to her at once. I pushed the recording button and raised the mic to begin speaking. This is Satoru. First, the least important point. I intend to listen to your requests as much as possible. Since we're partners, I think mutual trust is important. But however, your demand that I keep your wristwatch on, I just can't accept it. Having something on my arm just irritates me for some reason. By the way, it's the same with bracelets and the like. In the first place, I have a problem with the customer wearing wristwatches itself. Shouldn't a gentleman carry a pocket watch? Well, I don't really like their design and they don't keep time that well, so I reluctantly carry around a wristwatch, but don't you think the spirit of gentleman is something to be cherished? Even if I were to be sued by the Wristwatch Society, these feelings will never be changed. In conclusion, keeping the request to keep the wristwatch on denied. What a fucking moron. As I recorded that, I made a point to defiantly take the wristwatch off. This is war. This time I'm gonna hide it where you'll never be able to find it. I approach Yomogi. Would you hold on to this for a while, old man? Without waiting for an answer, I shoved the wristwatch into his pocket. Hold on to it? Here, I'm entrusting this to you, so don't ask any questions. It's an important wristwatch. Make sure you don't lose it, old man. Yomogi tilted his head to the side. I flashed him a thumbs up and left the cabin. I left that. I left so that, for now, Yomogi wouldn't ask too many questions. Not that it would really matter if he did, but having to explain everything would be a pain. I sat down just across the cabin door and resumed recording. Let's get to the main point. Continuing from last time, about the question, what year is it? You remember what I said in the previous message, right? The world you're in right now is 1 year later, the year 2012. However, that wasn't the most accurate way to put it. At all. That time, I'd lost my head. I forgot. The place where Kokoro can listen to the voice is restricted to just the shelter cabin. I didn't realize that simple truth. That time, by the world where Kokoro is, I didn't mean the shelter cabin. It's the world where Kokoro is from the viewpoint of me, who is here now. My god, why did he just say SPHIA? Fucking hell. Meaning in short, SPHIA. Do you get it? Why do you talk like this? What the fuck is wrong with you? Are you trying to cause confusion? Without beating around the bush, it's like this. In the world of SPHIA, it's 2012. In the world of the shelter cabin, it's 2011. Our consciousnesses are jumping, not only through space, but also through time. What we're trapped in isn't a mere personality exchange phenomenon. Along with the personality exchange, there's also a time jump, an extremely unique transfer phenomenon. I say this, but I guess you probably won't believe me. How should I explain it? At any rate, this is the truth. It's 2012 in SPHIA and 2011 in the shelter cabin. Kokoro and I keep shifting back and forth between two different bodies, places, and times. Just now you must be thinking, how can you say this with such certainty? The answer is simple, because I live in the year 2012. That is to say to you, I'm a person from the future. That's why I even know about the shelter cabin being in 2011. The crash of Flight 18 for me happened last year. You still can't believe it. Can't be helped. Well then, I'll tell you about Uni. In the message at SPHIA yesterday, you wrote this, right? Because if that isn't so, I can't explain how Uni could exist as two people at the same time. At the same time, that's what you wrote. But you know what? They really aren't the same. One Uni is the Uni from the year 2011, and the other is the Uni from the year 2012. Even if the very same person exists at different points on the time axis, it's not particularly mysterious, don't you think? Or rather, isn't it natural? Both the future and the past, Uni being there is normal. But you know, from now on it won't be so straightforward. And just when I was about to go on, the moon floating in the eastern sky above, its shape caught my eye. Very nice. Sorry, Kokoro. How should I put it? No, I'll tell you later. For now, that's it. Wait, I was about to forget something important. Okay, Kokoro? At SPHIA, from now on, don't eat any of the food. This is not a request. This isn't the best way to say it, but it's an order. I'll explain the details next time. Anyhow, if you take a single bite of anything, then consider your life over. I'm counting on you. I stopped recording. The last addition was, of course, because I was concerned about the MAO inhibitor. Maybe the culprit is planning on getting me to ingest some kind of underhanded method. I can't say for sure it's not a possibility. Then again, I don't have the time to explain to Kokoro about the MAO inhibitor, the monoamine oxidase, and the tyramine. Just say someone's going to poison you. Fucking hell. You say it's the year 2011 at the shelter cabin, it's the year 2012 in SPHIA, the unis have swapped, and someone's trying to poison you. Bam, done. No more fucking about. I can't list all the foods that she can't eat either. To begin with, it's not like I know whether any given food contains tyramine or not. That's why I said don't eat anything. As long as my body didn't eat anything in the next 48 hours, the MAO inhibitor could do no harm. I hoped Utsumi wasn't mistaken. I had etched her every word deep into my mind. Now then, that aside. Before anything else, the moon. The shape of the moon. Just, what the hell does this mean? It's the same waning gibbous moon I saw before, isn't it? It even went without saying that I'd seen it at SPHIA. But this was the shelter cabin. How could it be exactly the same? According to the lunar cycle, there was no way the moon could be in the same phase this year as it was this time last year. Moreover, even its position in the sky was more or less the same. The eastern sky. It was rising somewhere higher than before, and it was moving along a southward orbit, but it was still pretty much exactly the same place. Impossible. How could this be? I began to walk, as though guided by the moonlight. The light hit the white field of snow, creating a dreamlike veil of mist across it. The distant horizon was azure, like a congregation of free-floating souls. The mysterious quality of the scene before me almost had me convinced that I had stepped into a dream world. I continued my staggering progress forward. Entranced, my mind was a blank. But through my mental consciousness, I held fast to that single thought as I pushed forward. The phases of the moon at Mount Akakura and at Aosagi Island were the same. If that were true, then it couldn't be 2011 at Mount Akakura, but the year 2012, just like Aosagi Island. If that was impossible, then how do you explain Yomogi and the rest? They should have died a year ago. How could dead people be alive in the year 2012? Within my dim consciousness, that was the thought alone. In front of me shone a blue-white orb, no matter how far I ran, I'd never be able to catch up to it. Though it remained stubbornly reticent, that light kindly illuminated a path for me, inviting me, summoning me. Holding fast to the feeling, I continued chasing after the shadow of the moon. Turning around, I saw how the shelter cabin had grown small in the distance. It had been built in the middle of a deep hollow, like an earthen bowl. I turned back and continued my slow ascent of the slope. Climbing. Before long, I'd reached the top, and what I saw there was a vast ocean, its depths the glossy sheen of dark velvet. No way. How could there be an ocean here? Waves gently rolled across the ocean's surface to quietly break on the shore. The jet black depths of the ocean spread out in all directions with no apparent end. The soft moonlight kissed the waves with a glossy brilliance. Looking upward, the starry sky felt as though it would fall at any moment. Far off in the distance, I could see the point where the horizon divided sea and sky. Looking to either side, I could see the bow of the coastline, stretching far away in either direction. White caps broke against the shore. Even from here, the faint ripple of the waves reached my ears, a sweet melody like a lullaby. This was Mount Akakura, 1,200 meters above sea level. So, why? Why was there a shore here? As though something had snapped inside me, I began to run. I had to tell the others about this. Was this someone's sick idea of a joke? For there to be an ocean so close, and yet, in spite of that, they were shutting themselves in that shelter cabin waiting for a rescue team to arrive? It was too ridiculous. Why had they never noticed it before? Pushing through the fallen snow, I ran on. Because of the blizzard? I all but tumbled down the hill. With the shelter cabin as my goal, with the goal of returning to their sides. I finally reached the cabin. Almost crawling, I pulled myself down the path to the door, and just as I reached my hand out to throw it open, we knew that was about to happen. That's when she woke up outside and was like freezing. My surroundings changed in an instant. Darkness. I couldn't see a thing. But I could feel something like a piece of cloth covering me. Startled, I swept it away. This is my room. I could tell instantly. How many transfers does this make? They always seem to occur whenever something important was going on, as if their timing had been chosen deliberately. I took the wristwatch from my pocket and checked the time. 10:48, huh? Muttering that, I returned the watch. What was Kokoro doing until just now? In bed with the blanket over her head. Does that mean she was sleeping? I turned to the desk and grabbed the notepad lying there. There weren't any new messages. I thought of something and went outside. The pathway stretched all the way to the front gate. As I walked, I looked up at the moon for confirmation. Waning gibbous. The shape resembled an open mouth, making it almost seem like it was laughing hysterically. I stood before the gate. Trying to figure out how to open it, I noticed a small control panel to the left. It appeared to be a computerized card reader that controlled the lock. The deep slot in the side made me realize immediately what it was. A card reader. The wheels in my head were turning a little more quickly today. Is it because of the chilly moonlight? They say that the moon has a great effect on the workings of the human mind after all. At any rate, as soon as the image of the card reader appeared in my mind, a solution immediately followed. I plunged my hand into my pocket and pulled it out. It was the ID card I'd found in my room yesterday. Maybe it'll open if I use this. With great anticipation, I slid the card reader through the reader, So we do work here. We have our own card with our name on it. That means we have to work here. We're not a patient. It was a little more anticlimactic how easily it had opened. I removed my card from the terminal and left through the gate. A faint sense of liberation. However, that was all. I'm finally free. I didn't feel the impulse to yell anything like that. Come to think of it, the idea of developing a plan to free myself from SPHIA somehow never occurred to me. Even though I've thought I want to free myself from this transference phenomenon on many occasions. Between that, the shelter cabin, and the killer chasing me, I've had my hands more than full with those three things alone. I haven't been able to open the main gate before anyway. The reality of actually being able to leave SPHIA didn't bring me any great joy. We can't actually leave, there's an ocean. Now then, I went without saying that this was the coast. There it was, just a minute's walk from the main gate. The beautiful white sand of the shoreline stretched out from east to west. SPHIA was on Aosagi Island, so there was nothing strange about the ocean being here, but before my eyes were gently rolling waves, the jet black depths of the ocean, the soft moonlight kissing the waves with its glossy brilliance, and the starry sky that felt as though it would fall at any moment. Far off in the distance, the point where the horizon divided the sea and sky. The bow of the coastline, whitecaps that broke against the shore, and the faint ripple of waves like a lullaby. It was a perfect copy. This was the same landscape I'd seen at Mount Akakura. I found myself unable to speak. Some frightening reality was steadily approaching. Only that ominous premonition remained, coiling in my chest like a whirlpool. And with that, we need to wrap this episode up here, but that is huge. So we're in the same place, but then again, like, the cabin sometimes is next to the ocean and sometimes actually has a mountain there. Because sometimes we leave and we've got a mountain to go down, and sometimes we leave and boom, we're right on the coast. Is the whole fucking cabin teleporting? I don't know. I guess we'll see. Thanks for watching, Brace. I'll see you in the next one.